There's a new poll out from Gallup. A record high number of Americans, 42%, now identify themselves as independent. So they say, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. And I guess it's pretty much unsurprising because Congress had a 9% approval rating earlier in the year, the lowest it's ever been. So people are done with the bullshit. They're done with the nonsense from all of their elected representatives, whether they be from the left or the right. So when you look at the graph on this or the chart on this, it really shows you that if you look from 1988 all the way to 2012, you see relatively stable, a majority of, or I should say a plurality of people describe themselves as independent. Typically that number is about 35% or so. For Democrat, it's about 32%. And Republican is maybe about 30% on average. And as of today, it is 42% independent, so significantly up from 35%, 31% Democrat, and 25% Republican. And I have a theory as to why this is the case, why by and large, so many people are checking out of the political system, not voting anymore, or when they do a poll like this, they say, I'm independent. I don't want to be associated with either one of these groups of idiots. And my theory is very similar to my theory on many other things. It's corruption. The reason why the American people are so fed up with this garbage is that they know it's corrupt. And I don't think that they could tell you in great detail and great specifics as to why that is. I don't think they could tell you, well, see, the reality is we haven't done campaign finance reform, which means that lobbyists give X amount of money to the politicians, and then the politicians help them back out by giving them subsidies or corporate welfare checks, and that screws over your average citizen while it makes the rich richer. I don't think they could give you, a thesis or a good explanation that can go into detail about it. But I do think they have a visceral feeling about it. They have a gut feeling about it, and that gut feeling is totally justified. I mean, you don't have to be a mega genius to realize that the people that you elect are actually not representing you. If you look at the opinion polls on any issue, we just get ignored. The public just gets ignored. Take background checks for gun sales, for example. 91% of the American people were in favor of it directly after Sandy Hook. You had a majority of Democrats, a majority of Republicans, a majority of independents, a majority of gun owners, even a majority of members of the NRA. The only people who were against it was the gun manufacturers and the NRA and the leadership of the NRA. And what happened? They controlled the policy. Why? Because they're the ones who give money to the politicians. So we don't get represented even when it's 91% of the public on the same page. You name the issue, I'll tell you. Minimum wage, 80% of the public wants to see a hike. Still haven't seen it. Why? Because big business bought our politicians. That's like the one group in the country that doesn't want to see a minimum wage increase. So lo and behold, we don't get a minimum wage increase. I mean, I can give you example after example after example. War. How many people still want to be in Afghanistan? 17%. The war in Afghanistan is now less popular than Vietnam was and then Iraq was. I mean, really think about that. I mean, Vietnam is viewed as like this historic mistake. Now Afghanistan is less popular than that. But we're trying to get a deal to stay there for another 11 years. A blatant disregard of the will of the people. Now, how is that the case? Because, again, they're not representing us. Who are they representing in this case? The defense contractors. Those guys get huge government contracts because the lobbyists from the companies pay the politicians. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Did you know that in the middle of Nevada right now, we have a whole bunch of tanks that are just sitting there collecting dust? That the military even told the Congress, we don't need you to make more tanks. We don't need you to give another contract to this company. We're done. We don't need any more. Congress did it anyway. They passed it anyway. Why? Because, of course, they get paid by the company that makes the tanks. The lobbyists gave them money. So even if they have to sit in the middle of Nevada and collect dust, it is what it is. So this is why the American people are just sick and tired of the bullshit. So they say, I'm an independent. Fuck all, I'm not with them. I'm not with them. These guys are crazy. I'm tired of all this. And of course, the only answer to really fix the problem, like we talk about almost every day, is Wolfpack. Wolfpack is a movement to get a constitutional amendment that bans corporate personhood, says corporations are not people, and they also get money out of politics, get the cancer out of the political system. And they make it so that the politicians will actually be funded by the public, so they actually will represent the public, as opposed to today, they're, private interests pay them, lobbyists pay them, so that's who they represent. So if you want to get involved and become a part of that, we made a donation over here at Secular Talk Radio. We did a shirt drive and then donated the funds to Wolfpack. I suggest you get involved as well. It's wolf-pack.com if you want to take a look.